Howdy partners, welcome back to another fantastic episode of Falcor's Mighty Adventures. Before we start, I'd like to dedicate this mighty episode to a wonderful, wonderful canine companion who passed away recently. Her name was Clara. She was a good, wonderful dog, loyal, strong and brave, very quiet, very reserved. But more than anything, she was a good friend. So this episode is dedicated to her. She'll never be forgotten. Anyway, moving on. Today we're going to continue with diets. I think it was pretty popular. I think people responded pretty well to this subject. If someone got offended, well, that's too bad. But today we're going to talk more about, not only other mixes of meat and plant-based diets, but also we're going to talk about the other extreme, which is carnivore diet, 100% meat. That's a pretty powerful diet. Well, we're going to talk about that last. First, I want to talk about something called the ketogenic diet. You might have heard of it. Some people call it the Atkins diet because that's how it was called when it first came out. The ketogenic diet is basically a diet where you're eating mostly fats, 30% or so protein, and practically no carbs. I think it's 50 grams of carbs per day. And those carbs tend to be salads or fibrous foods, just to get some fiber into your body and maybe some vitamins. But basically it's that. So it's lots of fats, both animal or plant, it doesn't matter. Point is that you're using fats as your main source of energy, because you've got three sources of energy as a human being. You can stick to sugars, which are fast burning and they go straight to your brain, and they call it brain food. Then you've got carbs, which are a little slower burning but still considered short-term energy, relatively short-term energy. And then you've got fats, which are slow burning but very efficient, because the body, I believe the body is meant to burn fats more than carbs, but that's neither here nor there. So yeah, you've got those, and usually they have a good mix of animal and plant-based food coming in, so they don't discriminate, which is good. I don't know if you can have a ketogenic diet as a vegan, because if you're a vegan but you eat 100% mostly fats and no carbs, I guess you could do it, but I don't know if there's such a thing as, I don't know if it's possible. That's what I'm trying to say, because of what limits you have for food and things like that. If you're eating lots of fruits, that's already sugars, so you can't do that. In fact, some ketogenic dietitians say you shouldn't eat any fruit. So there's that. Maybe you could, pull off one fruit a day, like an apple or something, but you can't make a fruit juice and stuff like that. And that's a big no-no for the ketogenic, because if you put carbs, if you're already ketogenic and you're already burning fats, and that's your main source of energy, that means you're in ketosis. It's called ketosis. It means that your body has adapted to only burn fats for energy, and really it feels amazing. I've done the ketogenic diet, and you do feel so much sharper, and your mind thinks so much better, and you have all this energy. It really is pretty amazing when you do this. But the moment you eat carbs, you fall out of ketosis. Because your body now is confused and is like, wait, so you want me to burn fats or you want me to burn carbs? Because I can't do both. And that's true. The body isn't meant to burn both fats and carbs all the time. They have to choose. This is why people that do a standard diet to lose weight, they lower their calories to like practically nothing or below what they need, below maintenance, and that's how they sort of trick the body into starting to burn fats. But when you're in ketosis, because you're doing the ketogenic diet, then you're basically burning fats all the time. I remember when I was in ketosis doing the ketogenic diet, I remember my face lost so much fat. In fact, you lose fat in like the weirdest places and you're just like, wow, like crap, I had no idea. And you don't lose any muscle mass, at least I didn't. You know, I looked kind of ripped when I did the ketogenic diet because I lost all this fat around my muscles, but I didn't lose any strength or any muscle mass. It was pretty amazing. Just a sec, we're gonna try to kill this minotaur here. Boo, 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 boo. Just gonna try to. We're gonna come here. Let's see if we can kill this thing. So yeah, that's the ketogenic diet, and I'm not sure if you can do it plant-based, but most people do it animal, well, not plant-based. Now, moving on, we talked about plant-based diets, which are 50%, more than 50% vegetables and plants, and less than 50% animal derivative foods or meat. Now we're moving more into the 50-50. This is, I think, a healthy combination where you've got, if you choose your foods correctly, you know, you're eating a little bit of everything. You eat your veggies. You've got fiber in your diet and things like that. So I think if you're not sure, like, because no one knows what the correct diet is, I think 50-50 is good. So eat meat or animal derivative products with every meal. Eat your plants. Eat quality meat, and that's the most important thing. I think more than anything, it's not about the quantity; it's about the quality. Always choose quality over quantity. Don't base your diet on processed foods and things like that. Rather, buy the good stuff, buy a little less, but buy the good stuff, because I think that's the difference between healthy and unhealthy. It's a quality thing. And of course, in my opinion, you should, eat a 50-50 at least of animal products. Now, you might be asking, where did the whole plant-based diet thing come from? And I mean, why am I saying this? If, let's say, the American government gave the food pyramid, created it for a reason, and why am I not respecting that food pyramid, which says basically don't eat much fats, basically just stick to carbs, and eat a little bit of protein from animals and things like that. Well, this is the thing. If you really read into it, that food pyramid was created decades ago. At a time when America was prospering and based its economy on not only industries but agriculture, and they really wanted to sell their agricultural products to the American consumer. They realized that there's two options. We can sell more meat because they were producing a lot of meat, or even better, we can just sell more plants, more carbs to the average consumer. And it worked, because over the years Americans absolutely adapted to the food pyramid. They lowered their fats, increased fried foods, increased carbs, and they don't eat so much meat in the sense that just pure meat. They eat processed meat and things like that. They sort of adapted to a diet which was spoon-fed to them, the easy way out. And you can see that, Americans, I think now they're changing, but they used to not really cook for themselves, or they would choose easy foods that they could make, things like that. And what happened? Well, two things. You got more diabetes, especially in children, because their parents already had diabetes and their diet hadn't changed. And even worse, they got a overweight issue where 1/3 of the country is now overweight. That's not just because of the fast food industry, although it really doesn't help. It also has to do with their standard diet, the foods they eat, the foods they buy. Most of it is processed, most of it is high carb, low fat. How often do you find products that are low fat artificially? Now we're starting to realize that fat is in fact pretty important. You know, it's debatable if cholesterol is important, but like, I don't know if you knew this, the human body creates cholesterol all the time. Every day. Blue. Every day, all the time, your body's producing cholesterol. So now we're starting to doubt like everything practically, and we're really starting to doubt the human diet, what it's supposed to be. So, you know, that's where this whole obsession with the food pyramid and carbs came from. It came from, I think, the 50s, where the American government, you know, told everyone what to eat, and it was just to sell more. This has been pretty much proven. Now they're trying to change it. Canada changed its food pyramid, its standard diet, and it's even more vegetable-y, which you know, people seem to be happy with. So I'm not going to complain, but I would seriously consider, you know, is this the right direction or not? Let's try to sell some things. Okay, so as you can see, we're now in Egypt. This is Act 2. This is Act 2 of this game. Act 2 is pretty good. If you like Egyptian mythology, it's amazing. And also look at the change in the architecture of the game. Like, visually speaking, it's so different. So anyway, moving on. Now we're going to talk about carnivores. Carnivore diets are the polar opposite of the vegetarian diets. And the more extreme you go, which means the more percentage of meat you eat, where it's almost like 100, the less information there is on the subject. Vegans have at least 1 to 2 decades worth of information of whether it's sustainable or not, and it looks like it's not sustainable. But carnivores have much less evidence, because not so many people do this diet, and not so many people have done it for too long. You know, like how long has carnivore been an actual diet nowadays? I don't think it's more than 5 years. So yeah, we don't have enough information, but this is the gist of it. Basically, a carnivore diet is it's a meat-based diet, so it's more than 50%, but carnivores are either 90 or even 100% carnivore. And just like the vegans, you've got raw carnivores and you've got cooked meat carnivores. And these people can eat any animal-based product, but most of their diet is meat. Now, to be a carnivore, you have to be also ketogenic, because since you're not eating any carbs, because meat and animal fat and just animal products don't have carbs, it's basically protein and fat. So you will be in ketosis as a carnivore. So you're doing two things at once in a way. The only difference is that ketogenic diet can have plants, while the carnivores aren't allowed to have any plants, or at least only 10%, let's say, or things like that. I actually tried a diet where it was a 30% plant and 70% meat. It was basically my ketogenic diet, if now that I think about it. And it was pretty good, but it's not sustainable in the following sense. It's so easy to break this diet that you're going to have to put all of your food sort of plans with other people on hold forever. Because let's say you're going out with your girlfriend who is not part of this diet, or you're going out to eat with your family for your birthday or things like, or someone orders pizza, you can't have any of that. You can't eat normal food. You can't eat the standard food you get from restaurants and things like that. Like, unless you tell them, hey, I just want the meat, or things like that. It just makes everything awkward, and it really, socially speaking, it's not sustainable. I tried to do it for like 2 months maybe, and it started, like, at first it wasn't a big deal, but it started to become a problem when, I had to cook, and I'd cook and eat with my girlfriend, and she would, eat normal food, and I'd be like, no, I refuse this. I will only eat the meat. And it's just awkward and really unnecessary. And you're also really limiting your food variety to practically meat, different kinds of meats, different sources of fat, like butter and things like that. You're drinking lots of milk just like that. Instead of water. Like, I noticed that I'd be drinking milk all the time, and I just stopped drinking water, things like that. It does make you stronger. I noticed that a high carnivore diet will, like, give you gains. Like, I noticed a huge difference in muscle recovery, and my efficiency gaining muscle, and things like that. I will admit, the carnivore, like relatively carnivore diet, really, it helps with muscles. And you do, just like any keto diet, you lose weight, you lose fat. So take that into account. But it's also an extreme. And then, of course, like I mentioned, you've got the raw carnivores, and those are very few, because there's a whole, of course, stigma against them, as we've been taught that raw meat and raw animal products tend to be filled with all kinds of diseases, like salmonella, for example. Of course, pig meat has a whole thing going on where if you eat raw pig, you can get parasites and things like that. All of that, there's truth behind that. Really depends on where you get your meats. If you have a really high quality provider of meats, the chances of you getting some kind of problem are actually pretty low. But good luck finding someone who can get you consistently disease-free meats. It's not that easy at all. So yeah, there's a lot. Just like the vegans, you need a whole system around yourself, where where you get your stuff from, and things like that, in order to pull it off. So I would call it unsustainable. But where it is very sustainable is in the wild. So for example, if you're stuck in a survival situation, you're most likely going to end up being animal-based or even carnivore while you're in that situation. Because if you study, for example, the Bushmen of different countries, and you study people that live in the wild, you will see that mostly they are we're not going to kill these. Mostly they eat a ketogenic, high fat, high meat diet. So obviously it seems to be working with some people. The thing is, we don't know if maybe they have some kind of strange adaptation that other humans might not have, or maybe it's something that you have to sort of grow up with. Otherwise, it's not possible. If, for example, you study the natives of I think northern Canada, you will find that they're carnivores, 100% carnivores. They don't eat any carbs or anything like that, no plants, nothing, and they're considered some of the healthiest people in the world. So mixed thoughts on carnivores. It seems to work sometimes, but there's not enough information. Again, there is a whole YouTube community that is carnivore. It's becoming more and more popular nowadays. But that's just because people really don't know what to eat anymore. People really have no idea because you know, look at TV, not TV, but look at the media in general. Just hold on, did we forget to kill something here? Look at the media in general. You know, some of them are telling you you need to stop eating meat. Others are telling you no, just stay away from processed foods. Others are telling you no, you should do the keto diet and cholesterol is good. Other people are telling you no, you shouldn't, cholesterol's bad. And those are the same people that follow the diet that has made an entire population overweight. And I mean, just look at the facts. Ever since the food pyramid was created, it seems like all of America became overweight over the generations. So I mean, look at the facts, right? Surely that's not the ideal. It's not the ideal diet. But anyway, that's sort of the carnivore diet. So I mean, what should you do then? And my suggestion is stick to 50-50 and to only high quality diets. So like only high quality foods. Buy the best meat you can find. Don't skimp on quality of like milk and animal derived products. Get the good eggs, not the bad eggs. If you're buying salmon, get good salmon, not bad salmon. For plants, the same. You like plants? Sure, okay, eat plants, but eat the good ones, the organic ones. The ones that don't have so many pesticides. There are many laws protecting you from pesticides, so don't worry. It's not like everything you eat has poisons in it or anything. They're going to have residual poison, but you just have to clean it. I'm not trying to scare you. But you know, buy the good stuff. Buy the good stuff and invest in your food, and you will find that that's what makes it healthy, and the quality of the foods. When I was in treatment, I thought that I was going to end up craving meats more than anything, and it turned out that I craved, plenty of meat and plenty of fish. I was craving fish like crazy, but I was also craving onions and also craving garlic. And you know, some people say those things are toxic. The carnivores tend to say that garlic and onion is some of the worst food that you can eat. My body seemed to crave it like crazy. I wasn't craving any sweets, I wasn't craving any sugars, but I was craving those things. So you know, that might mean something as well. And try to stay away from extremes, I guess, unless you're in that situation. If you're in a survival situation, don't be afraid to eat meats and fat all the time. And don't be afraid of eating fat. I think people have this stigma that's like, again, based on that food pyramid, that fat is bad. No, fried food is bad. Stay away from frying things. That's crazy. Like, there's more and more evidence that shows that fried foods cause lesions, sort of injuries in your blood vessels, and maybe those injuries are what cause cholesterol buildup as a sort of like a scar tissue around it, and maybe that cholesterol buildup is what causes clotted arteries. So it's not the cholesterol itself because you're eating it. Maybe it's because you're eating so much fried food that it hurts your blood vessels, and the cholesterol builds up because of that. So it's sort of like kind of like firemen and a fire. Do you blame the firemen for being there to try to stop the fire, or do you blame the fire? You know, the fireman is cholesterol, and the fire is the injury caused by, let's say, fried foods. I'd say stay away from frying your foods all the time. That's not good. And remember what I said last time. Human body was not meant to digest raw fiber. It just wasn't. That's why when you eat fiber, you poop it out, and you're like, oh look, it looks exactly like what I ate. Gross, but it's true, isn't it? One last thing I want to say about sort of the science of food in general. There's this thing called digestibility rating, and there's this thing called what's it called? Oh, damn, brain freeze. Basically, it's what percentage of amino acids in the food are essential, and I believe eggs are the top of the list. I can't remember what the word is, but apart from that, digestibility it tells you what percentage of the food you eat is actually absorbed, and you will find that most vegetables have an extremely low digestibility rating, meaning even if it has plenty of vitamins, you might not have access to them if you're eating it. So let's say peppers have high vitamin C, right? But do you actually get that vitamin C when you eat it? Well, people are saying that no, because the digestibility is so low. On the other hand, and the same with protein. You know how they say soy has so much protein, but not none of it, but very little of that protein is digested, is actually absorbed, because that's just how it is. There's a whole bunch of mechanisms in soy that prevent it from being digested properly. This is not the case for meats. Meats are extremely digestible, and they're even more digestible when they are not cooked, because the fibers aren't hardened by the cooking process. It's the exact opposite for plants. When you cook it, plants become softer. The structure breaks down a little bit. With meats, it's already super supple, and it's extremely digestible from the start. Ooh, we're running out of time. So I just wanted to explain that, that's another thing that a plant-based diet has against itself, I suppose. The fact that that it's not too digestible, and this is actually becoming one of the biggest problems with what diet we should choose, because now nutritionists are starting to notice that that actually, how much of the food is actually being processed. And that really famous sort of commercial that vegans tend to put, which is it's like a commercial of like your stomach, basically. And actually, I don't think we're going to be able to finish this guy. It's a famous commercial. We're going to end the episode there, actually, where you see like one stomach which is full of plants and all these colors, and they're like, look, it's only this many calories, and look how full you are. And then they show someone who ate meat, and it's like this much meat, and the stomach is not full, and you've already got so many calories. Well, that is extremely misleading, because since you're not digesting most of that plant, I mean you are, but you're not really absorbing too much energy or nutrients from it, soon enough, very soon, you're going to be hungry again. This is not the case for the meat. It's so packed with nutrients that you're not going to want to eat for a while. Even though you ate less quantity and volume, the quality of it, since it's so digestible, is way higher. So in fact, you eat much less in quantity than you do plants. And that's how plant-based diets can be much more expensive than meat-based diets. And that's what the Americans knew back in the 50s, and realized, hey, we could make a lot of money out of this. It sounds conspiracy-ish, but it's true. And with that, we're going to end the diet thing. And this episode, we didn't kill this boss. Really sorry about that. We were just not going to make it. But next time we're going to kill him. We're going to kill him good. He's a goddamn arthropod. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I love you all. Bye, guys.